Hello, I'm Gary Grune. I teach the Intellectual Asset Management course, MEMP 590.01. It's taught in the spring semester only. I am an adjunct associate professor at Duke here and a PhD chemical engineer with a registration as a patent agent. I'm not an attorney. The course is primarily guided towards determining what the value is for intellectual property. So if you're involved in the 520 course, which involves intellectual property, technology, and business, this course is sort of an auxiliary course to that, not a required course, but an elective. I've been teaching the course in the program since the program's inception, so it's been about 15 years now. My background is academically, I have 2 degrees from Duke in mechanical engineering and chemistry, and then a master's and PhD from UMass Amherst and NC State University for PhD in chemical engineering. My industrial experience is about 30 years. I worked for 13 of those for IBM in the Research Triangle Park, worked for Herc Celanese, worked for Mitsubishi Chemical America, worked for Praxair, and did a stint at the NC State Tech Transfer Office. That's technology transfer. And my teaching experience has been both in the biomedical engineering department here at Duke as well as at Old Dominion University, where I teach this course in the business school. The statement of belief is that problem solving is a skill, and when it's augmented with intellectual property, it increases the value to the client. So really, when I do a lot of my work is consulting with outside firms, startups, mid-size and large companies, and all of them, without fail, basically have the same 4 questions, and that is, what's our immediate need? How do we benchmark it? What direction and why do we take it in that direction? In other words, strategic problem solving. And then how to achieve the goal, how do we implement it? And then how do we measure our progress? Well, intellectual property and how it's woven into what I just said is a big part of that. The problem solving strategy is a 4-step process. I teach that in the course. Defining the problem, how you make an agreement with implementing intellectual property into your overall process, determining current problem solving and IP assets, and producing a solution and IP protection for your client. If you're wondering, well, can I make a living doing this? I can tell you, first of all, patent agents make a very good living, and it's a very, very large growth area. It is how to take intellectual property and value it and determine what your return on your investment is going to be. That's what this course is about. So you have to determine what the corporate strategy is, whether it's a startup, whether it's a mid-sized company, a larger company. In every case, there's choices, and those choices are outlined in the slide you'll see. Problem solving and IP generation strategy is really what we talk about in the class, but what we really do in the class is we take apart on a team basis how to value intellectual property in any technology space. The anticipated result is that you're increasing your cash flow for your client. You're increasing your client's ability, whoever the client might be. It might be your own company. You might be managing a group where intellectual property is part of what you're doing. And if you don't think that intellectual property is part of what you're going to be doing when you graduate from Duke or wherever you go in the market space, I have news for you, you will be. Patents and intellectual property are part of business life today, and they're also part of academic life. Yes, Duke University has its own patents. The medical school has grown tremendously because of intellectual property that they have licensed out, and this course is about how do you do that. Why is intellectual property really valuable? We talk about that a lot in the class. Over the last 35 years, the IP royalties, intellectual property royalties in the United States have grown from almost nothing to over $140 billion a year just in licensing revenue. IBM, which is has a big presence here in the Research Triangle Park, and as I mentioned, I used to work for them. They generate over $800 million a year just in licensing revenue. That's not inconsequential. In other words, they're doing that purposely, and they get a check every year for $800 million, which covers basically the cost of the dividends they pay out in their stock. So the course requirements, very simple. We do weekly lectures, and we have questions and answers and associated assignments with those. The course gets graded pretty liberally based on group projects. So there's usually 3 to 4 students who follow a recipe. The recipe is actually a recipe that I developed and patented on how to value intellectual property in any technology space. So the process is you search the intellectual property, analyze, retrieve the intellectual property, and I have many tools that we use in the class. These are software tools that you'll be allowed to use, which are very expensive, but because we're at Duke, we have opportunity to use them at no cost. So that'll be part of what you get in the class. So we search the intellectual property, we retrieve it. Step 3 is analyzing the intellectual property. Step 4 is mapping the intellectual property. And then 5, the 5th step is valuing the intellectual property. So those are the steps involved. And what you'll see is, and we start out that way as we talk about the patent that was issued about 5 years ago now on simultaneous intellectual property search and valuation systems and methodology. The patent number is 326-851. If you're interested in looking at that, please do so. If you have any questions about the class, if you want to contact me directly, my email address is ggrune@duke.edu, and my phone number direct is 757-570-0883. Please contact me directly, either by email or by phone, and we can discuss whatever your questions or requests would be for the course. Thank you.